Hi, this is Doug Brunke with the Global Chamber, and today I'm with Wendy Jamison, CEO of Colnatech. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you sharing your insights. You've been through quite an adventure these last, since 2009?
Yeah.
And nothing like starting a business right in the midst of great prosperity.
Right. Right. It was a down market to say the least.
One of the key things, especially given the timing for what you've done, is that a company really needs to have some really strong foundational elements to it to do exporting, because exporting is a bit of a roller coaster, right? You've got a lot of things going on. You've got to be really flexible, as you mentioned prior. Could you talk to us a little bit about what are the core foundational elements that you found for Colnatech that have kept you going, kept you succeeding, kept you moving forward?
Well, I think I mentioned it before too, that it has a lot to do with being persistent, just refusing to fail. When it comes to running the business itself, I spoke with my mentor early in the development process, president of a very large company, and I had worked for him. I'd started a company with him, and he had said to me one of the first things, and another guy, Stan Sipes, is another mentor of mine. I don't know if you know Stan from when he was at MAP and then Goal, but both of them said the same thing: hire slow, fire fast. So fail faster. And we used the books of about Steve Jobs as kind of a guideline. We come back to that often. That he went through some tough times and had to leave his company and come back in order to really take charge, to have the insight. But with all of the challenges of just running a business, you do have to learn how to manage people who, especially if you're self-funded, you can't offer a whole lot of money. So you offer them other things. You involve them as much as you can. You give them flexibility. And even still, it's not always easy to manage people. And you have people that will do things that are not in the best interest of the company as well. So in terms of foundation, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, getting good people, getting a good team in place, and the team that you need, given the limitations of your ability to pay with what you're competing with. But fortunately for us, it was a time when there were a lot of people in the market, and we could actually get quite a bit of talent for not as much money as what was once a lot more expensive.
Gotcha. So were you able then also, in addition to getting those people, to be able to put in some systems, or did you consciously put in some systems, knowing that at some point that you would be ramping up like you have?
Well, so we started out as a research organization, right? And the systems that we developed were around research, and we wanted to have, Scott tried to bring a lot of that, when he trained the people in the back how to make crystals, for example. Here's how we do it. That was easy. That was there. And we just had to write the books, the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and have the books so that you could always have someone trained, cross-train people, so that if someone's out, you can have someone back them up, and you'll never be down in production. So some of that was already there. The systems a lot of it was taught person to person, on the job training, and then, okay, now we hired somebody to write up all the SOPs. But in a research organization, because you're developing things as you go, you're developing your systems as you go, and you're constantly changing your processes. So as people move and change jobs, in a small business, when you have, say, 10 or 12 people, or maybe even just 5, people wear a lot of hats. So if I'm doing this, but then I start doing this, now who's going to cover this piece over here? So, and as we have shifted, I can remember so many meetings sitting around this table right here where we're talking about, okay, well, if we noticed that something went wrong, you do this and pass it to this person, and wait, that's not going to work because she's not here from this time to this time. So you're just adjusting and trying to make the systems are somewhat there, but building a process that is consistent takes a fair amount of time, in a large part because the products are changing, the products are developing. And, well, just using an example of our manuals, rewriting manuals every time they make a single change. Okay, so now you've changed the feature, or you changed the interface on our electronics. Well, that photo has to now be changed in the manual on the website, and now we have to re-explain how it works. Instead of pushing this button, you push this button. So making sure that everybody understands that this is how it gets programmed. Yeah, it's an evolution on a new product.
Part of the foundation then for a company, since you started in 2009, you're selling to some big companies and some very established companies. So what you're really talking about is a very entrepreneurial activity, a lot of things kind of doing it somewhat on the fly in some cases. How do you what's the firewall that you use, and how do you interact with some big companies like Samsung when on the back end you're doing some really entrepreneurial things? They undoubtedly are working with all sorts of companies like Applied Materials and some big characters who are well beyond that. So how does an entrepreneurial company portray that, hey, we got everything under control, which you do, but they might be quite scared by some of the things that you're doing every day.
You actually don't all the time, and you do try to portray yourself a little bit bigger than you really are, and you might have 5 and say, oh, we have 15. But you want to give them the sense, they always would ask us, how long have you been in business? And we would say, since 2009. But Scott's been doing this for 30 years. Sure. You try to portray this image. And in fact, we are actually very reactive. Our distributors, our sales reps tell us, they ask questions, and then we say, well, wait a minute, I thought that was in there. I thought that was in the manual. Oh, no, I read through. No, it's not in there. But they will tell us what's missing, what's necessary, and it is an evolution with a new product. You are constantly reacting until you get it right. I mean, it would be so easy. I can't imagine how easy it would be to just sell a product off the shelf that has all the components ready to go. We haven't had that yet. Sure. And it does take a long time for a semiconductor product to gain acceptance. I've said it before that I remember talking to a consultant one time who told us, you're going to need 3 years of data before Applied Materials will ever buy from you. Well, they may or may not be buying right now, but I can't really say one way or the other. But it does take a while. They want the data. They don't want just the data. They want to test and prove. Which is one thing that's interesting about this is that the Germans in particular are willing to learn with you. That's what we found. Europeans are much more open to trying things that are not fully developed, and maybe it's the engineering in them. But they love kind of figuring it out. Does it work? They ship it back. Hey, this part didn't work, and you open it up and go, oh well, it was wired wrong, so the heater blew, so we'll just replace the heater, ship it back, and they'll try it again. And a lot of them will just kind of jerry-rig it themselves. They like to fiddle with it. A number of the people that we're working with, because they're a little bit lower in the chain, I'm not necessarily talking like the CEO of Samsung. I'm talking to the guys down in the bowels of the fab. They're the ones that have to make it work. So they're accustomed to they're mechanical, electrical, other kinds of engineers who are accustomed to kind of fiddling with it. Though we don't see that in Asia so much. They're not willing to try something that hasn't been tested and has mountains of data. The Europeans, in particular the Germans, are very, very good, and I should say the Dutch as well, very willing to test it out, put it on their test systems, run it for 6 months of data, give us data back, then we would adjust to that. So it was a cycle, a development cycle in particular. You just got to get something out there. You can't wait until it's fully ready, fully built, because you may build the wrong thing, which we learned from Korea the first time we came and said, here, this is what you want, right? And they said, well, we're not so sure. So you have to get something out there, tested, let people use it. And oftentimes, we've talked about business models. Oftentimes you have to give it away. I mean, in our cost, each prototype would cost us anywhere from $500 to $2,000. So prototype after prototype, and if you walk through my foyer, you'll see that there are probably 20 or 30 prototypes sitting there, and even more in the back. So you go through a lot of prototypes until you get it right, the right size. Everybody wants it just a little bit different. So we're past the customization phase where they have this kind of system. These guys have an Applied Materials system, and these guys have a Cambridge Nanotech system, and these guys have all these. There's so many different kinds of systems, and you have to make it fit in their particular ports, and you can't cut steel real easily when it's sitting on a system. So we had to give some stuff away and then adapt and be, and if they're open to it, develop with them the product to the best specifications. And we have done that in a lot of places around the world.
It sounds like a great foundation for your exporting is your entrepreneurial spirit and your flexibility and your ability to build these prototypes quickly. I doubt the bigger players could have that capability.
They can't. They can't be nearly as nimble and flexible. It's much more difficult for them to innovate, let alone invent. I mean, we invented new science, and then to even take something that's innovation, it just takes them that much more time, because where are they going to test it? They can't. They have a reputation that they can't just throw something. Apple, for example, can't just throw something out there that's complete crap and then expect people to test it. It has to be largely finished, largely tested in-house, and that takes a lot of money, a lot of time.
Wendy Jamison, thank you so much for sharing your success, for sharing how your reactivity is a really strong asset to your success around the world.
That's about listening. Thank you. Yes, it is.
Appreciate it.